All right, yeah. So my thoughts on the whole plane. Like, I don't think it's smart. I just don't think it's smart. Now, as far as like a big deal, I think for Donald Trump, it's not that big a deal. If it was just Donald Trump. However, obviously, we do know that within the Constitution, a executive branch personnel, the executing member, the president, is not supposed to receive gifts from other foreign governments, and unless the House actually votes on that. So yes, that is true, and maybe Trump just doesn't know or didn't know, and then just, oh yeah, I'm getting a plane, and then everybody's flipping out now. Um, One thing is, I don't think Donald Trump is going to get bought by these guys. Okay, I think it's more of a gesture for doing business,
Yes.
but I still don't like it. Now, if it was, I mean, nobody had any problem with the Biden family receiving money, right, from Ukraine, right? Nobody had any problem with Hunter Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop, right?
Mhm.
But because it's Donald Trump, obviously it's more polarizing. It's something to talk about, and it's something that they can try to impeach him on, and that's all it is. They're going to try to impeach him, you know.
Deacon Alex, could you talk a little bit about the prophet Balaam? Because he was a prophet that was swayed by greed. And I like what you said. The big problem is, and I think Harold said it too. Harold Lee, shout out Harold Lee in the chat. He said as long as he's Harold said as long as he's not swayed by the gift. Yeah, like I think being bought out is the real concern here, not the technical rule of being able to accept a plane or not. Trump has all the money in the world. He doesn't need a Qatar plane. So yeah, but I kind of it kind of reminded me of that prophet and his greed problem. Could you speak to that, or is that like fresh on the on the back burner for you?
Yeah. That's not fresh off the rip right now. I
So
do know Balaam, but and I think that comes from Numbers 24, 25, and 26. I think,
yeah,
but I'll let you speak on that, brother.
yeah. So Balaam, he was offered gifts by Balak, right? Similar names. Wow, king of Moab, to curse Israel. And though Balaam initially refused and blessed Israel instead, his heart was swayed by the prospect of reward. And later, the scriptures talk about how he advised Balak to lead Israel into sin. Yeah, and eventually his greed killed him. So obviously, that's the trap of gifts, or if you have a love of money, or yeah, a seduction with it. But actually, the more I talk about this, guys, the more I'm like, Trump again is the man who has, and we know Jesus is actually everything, but the man who has materially everything you could ever want, presidential job, you're making way less money. He doesn't need that. I think it's safe to say he's not going to be swayed by gifts, right? He's like a super billionaire. What do you guys think about that before we go on to these red Cybertrucks?
Matt.
I don't know. I'm just contrasting my opinion on everything is centered on a lot of these thoughts of seeing so much attention, that and so much like positivity and respect that's been coming out of these Middle East countries really made me be pulled back into the vortex of 9/11. Okay, 9/11, 13 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Okay, and I haven't spent a lot of time thinking positive thoughts about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Qatar or anybody over there on that side of the fence, because they've always has been extremely suspicious to me, their level of interactivity with the United States government, including the Bin Laden family being flown outside of the United States, starting from September 13th, immediately as flight restrictions, and rumors of happening that while flights were suspended in the United States on September 11th, that they were actually having flights that were getting Saudi nationals outside of the country. So I've always been incredibly suspicious of Al Qaeda. I've always been incredibly suspicious of the relationship between the United States of America and the terrorist organization Al Qaeda, and Saudi Arabia. I never had a palate for opening myself up to their love of us per se. Okay, so I went back to Grok, and I was talking to Grok about how, what is the precedent, what's the history of such a warm reception being shown by United States presidents, and it seems as if that such a warm reception was not shown by Barack Obama, but the last warm reception that we've seen like this was actually under George W. Bush. So I really don't know what to say about the matter, but I am extremely suspicious. I don't want to have that be imbalanced by the fact that, I do want this peace, and I do want this unity, and I want this leverage, and I want this idea that we're so attached to the hip of Israel. I really love the idea that if Trump really is dissing Netanyahu, I love that idea, not because of any dislike of Israel, just because it interferes with this cannon fodder of approval of Israel and us being puppeted by Israel, so on and so forth. But how to now jump ship and then this be totally cool with the kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Al Qaeda and Syria, it just does not sit well for me. I honestly don't know what to do with any of the subject matter.
Yeah. I hear you.
So. Oh, Alex disappeared on us again. So I did all that. Okay, wonderful.
No, he's here.
No, I'm
He's
here.
He's here.
Okay. Yeah.
He's right
So
here.
what do we do about that? 13 of the 19 hijackers from Saudi Arabia, and this is our best friend. How does that fit into the picture? I don't have any room to be suspicious of that. Am I just a conspiracy nut? Am I supposed to forget about this history? How does that add up with now camels and parades and all of this jazz? That is nothing new under the Trump administration, but it was the same thing happening under Bush.
Look, it's just, I think, first of all, it's not cushy friendship. It's business. These are nations and leaders. I don't think that. I think as a nation, there's nations that you might actually be close with and have, a relationship with and a history with. And then if you're a world leader, if you're a global power, there's nations that you just do business with, right? And to me, this does not seem like a cushy friendship. This seems just like business. This is pure business. Well, I'm not saying it like it's a fact I don't know, but to me, this seems like pure cold business. And just getting what they need to get done so that they can have a peace, a greater unity. And again, I think part of this unity is to isolate Iran, which would be a good thing.
Yeah, if you don't, not to put you on the spot, brother Jonathan, how old are you?
31.
Okay, you're a little older than I thought, but. So
we're always doing that to Brother Jonathan. We're always doing that.
How old were you at 9/11? How old were you at that time?
10 years old.
Thank you. I'm thank you. Yeah, I need that. So yeah, that.
Okay. So I'm not going to tell you my age, but I remember hearing about all of this that Matt was talking about. Right, the Saudis, they were getting flown out during the flight ban, and it was like, well, why are they getting flown out? Because believe me, everybody was, all the media was like, oh, well, it was Arabs, and then they were, Saudis, and so all of America was like looking at like every single Arab-looking person and suspiciously during that time because we were like, man, we just got quote unquote attacked, and and so, yeah, I do remember that. But I also remember about 10 years before that, my uncle was serving in the Desert Storm War in 1991, right? And he went into Kuwait. He went into Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was, in some sense, an ally during that war. And so, so I don't know exactly the history that, were we ever? Matter of fact, I was even watching something a little bit that America has influenced. Matter of fact, it was Ben Shapiro actually that America has influenced Saudi Arabia since like the 1930s. We're the ones that taught them how to drill their oil. And that so the way that they're drilling the oil is because of the United States. We've definitely influenced them. So we have had a long history with them. Now, just because there were some bad apples, there's bad apples in every group, right?
13
So
bad
we have
apples.
bad apples.
It seems so
Yeah.
peculiar.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's a whole country. It's a whole country.
It's just
The whole
weird,
country
though.
isn't 13 people.
But that is
Yeah.
what they said. They said because of our what the innuendo. So first, the first person that brought this Saudi Arabia to our attention was not our friend, but our foe, Michael Moore, in the movie Fahrenheit 9/11. Okay, so but the response and articulation has always been that Saudi Arabia is one of our closest Middle Eastern allies. So then that would be a good place for terrorists to hide because they had access and they had foreign access and they wouldn't have layers of suspicion, right? But then behind the scenes within the conspiratorial community, those relationships that we pointed behind the Saudi family and connections to the Bush administration, so on and so forth, had to do with the oil ties and had to do with business arrangements per se. And that friendship, could it be that Saudi Arabia, countries such as sort of like Qatar, are akin to, as we say, that Ukraine has become a proxy state of the United States, that in as much that Qatar and or Saudi Arabia are proxy states for the United States as well? Could this just be a dramatic form of international theater? I don't know, right? What I do know is that what happened on September 11th was never properly investigated. I know that coming about 2 weeks ago, Tucker Carlson, we aired the clips on the show. Tucker Carlson brought to our attention again how desperately we need a new 9/11 investigation. I know that the release of the John F. Kennedy files going back a month ago now has already become a snoozer. And I want to see a new 9/11 investigation. And in the back of my mind, as much as I see the positivity from all of this, and I'm willing to be hopeful, and I'm really not suspicious of Trump at all, the end conclusion for me is that thanks for reminding me about the 13 of those hijackers being from Saudi Arabia. I want a new 9/11 investigation, and I want to see the Epstein files released as soon as possible. I'm really not into the whole theatrical performances that I think might be kindling here at this moment, because this is a masterful packaging, which I think it's really sold me on hope in the Middle East. I think I'm belaboring my point.
That's okay. Paul Henderson quoted in the chat. He said, "Thank you for your comment." He said, "Gifts have been a thing going back into the very beginning. It's not that much more than just tradition. Jacob sent gifts to his brother. I would even say that King Solomon received gifts from foreign leaders and people that came to visit him. He was getting all kinds
the
of
Statue
gifts.
of Liberty,
France
the
and the Statue of
Freemasons
Liberty.
in France.
Yeah. So, I just more concerned with his personal safety and health, being that he's our president. We need him to do a lot more stuff. He has,
and the optics.
He has another 3.5 more years that he has to serve as president. We need him in one piece. So that's more of what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about him being swayed by that $400 million jet.
And who are we to second guess this guy? He just won the China trade war. I mean, literally, what has Donald Trump not actually won at in the past 3 months of little, side jockeys like ourselves, perhaps critiquing, even though we're on Team Trump, Team America, Team Restoration of the Constitution. We're on the team that's against the New World Order and the human sacrificing child sacrificers. This guy has not let us down even once. So, why wouldn't I be able to give him extreme, benefit of the doubt in this situation, despite all of my internal wrestling and objections with simple things I think is a little bit, distasteful. I think it's a wonderful gesture, and I do want to see America be at the forefront of establishing a new world order that isn't controlled by the neoconservatives and is controlled by compassion, peace, and love, and a peacemaking type of new world order, instead of a new world order that's attempted to be created by the what did Eisenhower call it? The military-industrial complex.
Have we spoken about this whole thing being that